Hey, good afternoon, Enid. I'm Gerald Gilbert, your city manager. I'm sitting in today and on behalf of Mayor George Pankinen, who is in a meeting with other mayors and the governor right now, a conference call. So look forward to getting an update from him after that. I'm here with Scott Morris, the assistant city manager, and Derek Silas, our communications director. And we really just want to continue updating you daily about topics regarding COVID-19 and try to answer some of your questions. So today I just wanted to talk about a few things starting off. One of them being the supply chain, logistics, groceries in town. I know I reached out again to Gerald Blevins just before our talk here, and I think we're going to have Gerald come in here at some point and talk to you about the efforts he's making to keep the supply logistics working. I was in Jumbo's myself last night, like a lot of you, looking for toilet paper, and while he's still short on that, he's got about everything else right now. So we're going to have him real soon to update you that most supplies, most food items are still going to be available and going to be readily available in the future. And he'll talk to you about the efforts with the warehouse and all. Derek, we had a few other categories of things we were going to talk about, and then we're going to answer some questions, right?
Yes. Well, one of the categories, many of the residents are concerned about city water utility services. They're saying some of the families have already lost their job and may be going to lose their jobs for whatever reason, and they're wondering what ways is the city going to work with those individuals?
Well, first of all, I'd like to remind everyone that utility payments can still be made online. They can be made over the telephone. We have a drop box out front. So if you need to make your payment, you can come by and use any of those methods to make a payment. For our disconnection policy, there should be a press release going out soon, but beginning yesterday, we're going to waive all late fees and not do any disconnections until at least April the 13th. And at that point, we will reevaluate our policy and see what it is that we might need to do. But in the meantime, we are encouraging everyone to pay as much as they can on their utilities. And if they know there is going to be a problem, to please contact our utility services department so that they can begin to work with those individuals and figure out solutions. There are a few other people in town that partner with us that have resources that can help people in need. And so we can put those individuals in contact with those other agencies, and they may be able to take up part of the burden as well.
Okay. So to the people that are online, we will be posting the information on the website at www.eni.org/coronavirus. So that's going to be the go-to page for all the things that we were talking about. And we will update that page to focus on the ones that are able to help with utilities within the community as well. You talked about supplies, Gerald, and you talked about utilities. There are businesses around, restaurants and what have you, that have lowered their manning hours and what have you. What resources do we know? There are a lot of people concerned about their employees and just their business in general. So what suggestions or what financial assistance do you know of is the question someone had.
Yeah, that's a great question. I know that the Small Business Administration has made available and has continued to make available disaster relief loans. I know that those are available right now if you go out to sba.gov and fill out an application. I do know that some expert people to talk to get assistance for those things are Lisa Powell and her team over at the Enid Regional Development Alliance. Also John Blankenship at the Chamber of Commerce. They can help you work through those issues with those applications. It's my understanding those are low interest loans to help you now maintain payroll and try to maintain a business operation and recover some of your losses. Mm-hmm. And those may become grants at some point. And so I think we probably can have more information about that for our small business owners out there soon by having some of those experts help update you and directing you to them to help, because I know it's a difficult time. We're all in this together. So.
Okay. There was a question online about concerning homelessness in Enid, and they were asking us what are we doing as a city to address that.
You know, that's a question that's on a lot of people's mind, and I want to make sure that people know that the mayor and the city commission are very concerned about issues like this as well during the crisis. I know we've got some folks in town that have for a long time worked to provide resources for our homeless community. This is an extraordinary time. I've reached out to several of those folks just today and over the recent past. Jeremiah Harrion. I missed Matt Lohman today, but I'll be giving him a call. Victor Estudiante and Cindy Stevenson just recently. And what we're going to do with the city is to help facilitate getting all of those resources together and figure out what else we need to do. And we're going to have a call on that tomorrow.
Okay.
Haven't set up that time yet, but our effort is we recognize there's an issue. There's people in a vulnerable population that are continue to be displaced and is causing issues, even more issues maybe now with businesses closed and public facilities closed, which is simple things like going to the bathroom. Where do they do that? The easy things that we take for granted, like talking about washing our hands and maintaining social distance and things like that. Those are the things we'll be talking about, how we can help with that problem and make it better. So we're committed to doing that at the city, working with those organizations.
Okay. There are some more questions that are online, and one of the questions was about the authority of the mayor and city manager to call for an emergency proclamation, as we've done last week. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, the city has in place through the city code, Title V, Chapter 3, I believe it is, anticipating potential emergency situations. To be frank, I don't know that we've had one like this in a long time. In fact, this particular COVID-19 crisis is unprecedented. So what we did starting last week, I believe on Monday, is the first proclamation was put out from the mayor closing some city facilities from the perspective looking at trying to protect the public and city employees and while maintaining essential city services. We updated that later in the week on Friday, actually, and took the extraordinary step of closing dine-in restaurants while encouraging carry-out, delivery, and any other method that doesn't involve 10 people gathering in the dining room. We closed bars and fitness centers and things like that because those were places where people gathered. And as we know, this COVID-19 virus spreads primarily person to person. So people ask specifically, what gives us that authority? Well, it's the city code, and specifically some of the regulations that it says can be imposed are restricting movement of vehicles, imposing a curfew, restricting the sale of alcohol, imposing a quarantine, rationing and limiting the number of people in a place, and other regulations necessary to preserve the public peace, health, and safety. So that's under what authority we're doing it. We don't take it lightly. It's an unprecedented time. We appreciate all the cooperation, and that's where we're at today.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to say to the viewers out there, we're thankful that you're here joining us, and every Friday we're going to have the Garfield County Health Department on, and at 1:30. So Monday through Friday, you can expect us on here to give an update with COVID. We're gonna stop this for about 2 minutes, and we will return back again with some more questions from the city manager and the assistant city manager.
Hey, good afternoon, Enid. We had some technical difficulties, but we're back on. We want to come and update you on events involving the COVID-19 emergency situation, and then try to continue answering your questions. I want to tell you that Mayor Pankinen is on a conference call with other mayors and the governor right now. So I know he's getting an update from the governor, so we'll hear more about what he finds out probably later today and tomorrow in the update. But I wanted to let you know that your public officials are working on your behalf, and so we wanted to update you on a few things today. I know the homeless situation is a concern, small businesses and the impact is a big concern, utilities is a concern. So we're going to try to just answer some of those questions today and maybe take some live questions that you send in right now. And so I want to make sure, by the way, Gerald Gilbert, City Manager, Assistant City Manager Scott Morris, and Derek Silas, our Communications Director. Derek's going to ask us some questions.
All right. Well, you did mention a little bit about what we're going to talk about. So I guess we can talk about homelessness. There are a lot of concern of homeless people in the city, and there was a couple of questions about what the city is doing for that?
Well, what the city's doing is working with organizations like Hope Outreach, Forgotten Ministries, the Salvation Army, Enid Faithways, to try and up our effort on what we need to do to help out this population during this difficult, extraordinary time. So I've talked to several of those people, Jeremiah, Matt Lohman, Victor, Cindy Stevenson. We're going to get together and using their expertise, try to work up a plan, because I think we need, or try to action a plan, actually. Right now, with the closure of businesses and public buildings, there's no place, not only is there no place for the folks to go, there's no place for them to do basic things like wash their hands, use the bathroom, and that can exacerbate the public health crisis here. So that's why the city is even more actively involved than maybe we would be, working with these organizations and trying to come up with an actionable solution to help out right now.
Okay. As far as utility services, there have been a number of questions about that. One of the questions was, will Enid lift or offer any help on the city water utility services because families are getting sent home from their jobs and what have you?
I'll take that question, Derek. So first off, you can still pay your utility bills online, on the phone. You can come by and put it in our Dropbox. There are many different ways that you can pay your utility bill during this time. If you need help setting up a service, there's a phone number to call. We can help you do that. We're still doing business. We're still ready to help everyone with their utility needs. And yes, during this crisis, we are starting yesterday. We are waiving any late fees, and we're waiving our disconnection policy through at least April the 13th. And at which time we'll reevaluate what the situation is. We'll look at our policy again, decide if there are any changes that need to be made. But in the meantime, we're encouraging everyone to pay as much as they can on their utility bill. And if they know they're going to experience problems, go ahead and give us a call. Try to let us put you on a deferred payment plan. And we want to help people through this. Even though we started our policy yesterday, last week even we did not shut anyone's service off. We were just, before we came out with a formal policy, we were trying to be conscientious of the fact we don't want our citizens to be going through this without the ability to wash their hands and be able to drink and do all of the things that they need to do in their home during this pandemic.
Okay, very good. Another question here is about the supply chain, as far as tissue, water, and those necessary needs that people need. They're saying, there have been incidents where there's none in Walmart or Jumbo's or what have you. I've even witnessed that. So what are we doing? Do we know any information about what's going on in that area?
Well, we certainly know there's some shortages in town, but I know from talking to Gerald Blevins at Jumbo Foods just before our meeting here, checking in with him again, they are constantly working the supply logistics chain, looking for those items that we need that might be in short supply, like toilet paper, bottled water, etc. I was in Jumbo Foods just myself yesterday, And I noticed that for most things, they have stock. They had plenty of meat, it looked like. So there's shortages. We're probably going to have to bear with that for a time. But we're going to bring Gerald on soon to just explain all the efforts that are going on. And we just encourage citizens that when those items in short supply are in stock, that we remember everybody else. And most stores are limiting purchases to 1 or 2 items just because it doesn't help all of us if we hoard those essential items. So I know more stuff is coming, so hang in there. The trucks are coming every day. Trucks are rolling, so it's good news.
Okay. There's another concern about businesses, restaurants, what have you, that are having financial trouble because of this crisis. Is there anything that any advice you can offer them, or?
Well, I know that the Small Business Administration is offering disaster relief loans during this time. So if you go out to SBA.gov, as I know some have, there's been information coming out from our Enid Regional Development Alliance and the Enid Chamber of Commerce, who are experts and in a position to really help our small businesses, particularly through the SBA and the Department of Commerce at the state. It's important for small business owners to go out and fill out those applications. They're low interest loans to help you now, but it's my understanding that those can or may or will get converted into grants at some point. That is one avenue that we can help right now. I know certainly everybody is sensitive to the extraordinary hardship on our small businesses. Restaurants is a good example. Closing down dining facilities makes it very difficult for some restaurants. So we want to do what we can to support them through their curbside carryout or delivery or drive-through methods. Those are still methods that are allowed to provide food, which we all need. So those are some things that we can all do to help each other get through this crisis.
Okay. You answered a question earlier about this how often, someone asked about how often the city officials are updating the state or getting updates. You mentioned about the mayor speaking to the governor. However, there's another question about how often is the city in contact with the hospitals and doctors' offices in Enid to get updates?
Well, the city currently has a standing meeting weekly with the hospitals and emergency management and some key agencies here in town. I know we're in more constant contact than that with them, either phone or via email, as we try to work through the issues and make sure that that we are communicating or that the various elements in the community are communicating. Everybody looks to the city, particularly in times of crisis, so we're trying to ensure that we step up our efforts in communicating with folks. So those communications are happening daily, many times, but there's a standing weekly call. I know that the mayor has been on a conference call. This is not his first one with the mayors and the governor. I believe he may have been on one last week. So I know he's in contact with state officials and OML as we work through this pandemic.
Derek, I believe in addition to that, our emergency management director has been having daily meetings with the health department.
Yes.
So I think he may be on the show soon, but he's been having daily updates with the health department and giving us information that way as well.
Okay. There's a question about parks. Their question is how long will the parks still open and how long will they be open? Is the question.
Yeah, the parks are still open for individuals to go out. We just ask that you, again, follow CDC guidelines and Department of Health guidelines, maintain your social distancing, wash your hands. What is canceled or postponed until after the emergency are group or social events in the parks, which includes organized sporting activities. Those have all been canceled or postponed. So we're also not issuing shelter permits and things like that because that encourages social gatherings of more than 10. But a park, if you want to use the trail system, following CDC and Department of Health guidelines, we encourage you to do that, to get outside and do that. Currently there is not a shelter-in-place order from either the city or the state. So it's a nice warm day. You can certainly do that.
As a
Just not big
reminder as
groups.
well, we have a very fine golf course here in Enid. Go play a round of golf during this time.
There's a few more questions that are live here. Someone mentioned homelessness again. They were saying that, there's access in the mall, and they were asking why can't we allow them to house them there? That's the question.
I'm not familiar with the assets in the mall. I know the mall's a privately owned company. I think quite frankly, I think there's better options available. I know that there are some shelters here in town. I know Mercy House is currently closed. That's part of our effort working with the group, is to see if that may be a possibility to open. I know Salvation Army has a shelter. I know that shelter, from talking to Victor, is maybe close to being full, but from time to time there's openings. They're feeding people. So is Our Daily Bread. I understand they're giving out box lunches to folks. So I don't know that the mall's a possibility right now. I think there may be better options, and that's what we're looking to action now.
Okay. We have a number of other questions online. One of them is there any talk about closing salons or barber shops?
I know I've seen a few questions about that too. Those are not currently impacted by the emergency proclamation. But I think it's reasonable that those businesses would again follow CDC and Department of Health guidelines and be cautious about having gatherings, large gatherings. It's not currently planned, but it could happen. Certainly, this is an evolving crisis that's deepening a little more every day, and probably will for the next couple of weeks until we can get closer to the backside. I know testing's being ramped up, and I think when that happens, that will certainly help us get to the other side.
Okay. Looks like that's all the questions I can see on there right now. However, is there any ways innovative ways businesses can keep their employees? One of the questions that was on another post, people were concerned about businesses, innovative ways they can get businesses to keep their employees. And they were asking us about it.
Yeah, I can say that businesses have been looking to innovate any way they can to keep going right now. Obviously, an online presence in some form or fashion is a way. Restaurants that didn't do delivery before, maybe considering that, and certainly looking at doing curbside. I know I've heard the governor talk about innovation, and certainly innovation may be a possibility. We can certainly help businesses, but anyway, go ahead, Derek.
Oh, that's good. I was going to ask another question after that.
Okay.
Some people are concerned about the grocery shopping versus social gathering, and they wanted guys to explain why the Walmart is open or bigger stores to allow shopping versus restaurants.
I think the easiest way that I could answer that is that there are certain essential functions that we will have. Even the states that have done shelter-in-place orders are exempting certain businesses that they consider as mission essential or essential for the well-being of the groceries. Obviously, businesses that provide groceries. I've seen things like auto parts, banks, gas stations. Businesses like that, I think, will always be open. I know many of those businesses have adopted rules either to ensure that social distancing is happening within their store as best they can. I've seen hand wash stations. I've seen wet wipes. If you'll notice in Walmart, when you walk in, there's wet wipes and jumbos. They have people wiping down the cart. So I know our businesses are working very hard to try and comply with the rules and still be open, and we're going to need that in the future and now.
Is there any other updates you think you can give to the audience concerning it?
What do you think, Scott?
I think everybody wash your hands and stay safe. Try to stay indoors if you can. And we're going to get through this together.
There is one more. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
There was one more question about stay-at-home order, they're asking if Enid is going to get to that point as well.
We're not at that point now. I can't tell you if that isn't going to come at some point. I know that probably may be part of the discussion that as the governor reaches out for information from mayors like our mayor, Mayor Pankinen, that may be part of the discussion. I don't think that's coming yet based on what I've heard the governor say, but with the crisis escalating in various parts of the country, it's probably not unheard of that could happen at some point, but not yet.
Okay. And another question is about, do we have the authority to require businesses to provide essential hazard pay? That's the question.
No, not in that form or format. I do know that the City of Enid, like many other employers, based on legislation passed in Congress just recently, the First Families Readiness Act that's related to the COVID-19 emergency, is going to be requiring employers, at least employers of a certain size, maybe it's under 500, to provide certain things. Additional family leave, additional 80 hours of sick leave. So we're working on implementing that now, as I know other employers will be doing. Those kind of things, and those kind of things are available potentially for a business to get relief from through that disaster recovery and relief loan. So do we have the ability to tell private employers to do that? I don't think we do at this point, but I think that the federal government is mandating things for employers, which includes us and other employers, that will hopefully address what that person is asking.
Okay. Well, thank you. Any more?
No, I think that's a good way to wrap it up.
Okay.
We want to make sure that we're communicating as well as we can. So send your comments and your requests in. I know the mayor will be back tomorrow, and I'm sure he'll have an update on his conversation with the governor and whatever else is going on at that time to address the crisis. Thank you for tuning in.